Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories. And if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. Let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from a throwaway account and says, my mother, 52 female, cheated and left me, 27 male, and our family to work in the adult industry and now wants to come back and be my mum again. Posting here because my therapist said it would be nice to get it off my chest. Please pardon me for the wall of text, and no, I won't share any info or links, so if any creep even suggests it, you will get blocked. To give some context, my dad, 67 male, used to travel a lot for work and stay weeks away, so he and my mother had an agreement where they had an open marriage. Don't know the details, but she was the only one that slept with other people. This happened to most of my childhood, and as I can remember her leaving at night to go to clubs and parties, sometimes taking days to come back and neglecting me and my brother. I learned how to get groceries and cook when I was 8, so me and my brother would not starve. When I was around 13, my parents started fighting since apparently she had broken the deal in some way. My dad found out about the neglect and she started going into the adult industry. They separated and for years I had no contact with my mother. I sent her texts and emails, some that even popped up as she had seen it, but she never replied. So one day I just gave up trying to contact her. I managed to stay in contact with some people from her side of the family, but a lot of them began hating on us, saying that we were too harsh on her, that we never supported her, that she did well leaving us, and gradually I also cut contact with them as well. She started working in the adult industry and got pretty famous in my country. Got a lot of money, and I stopped using any NSFW websites as she was on the top pages of all of them. I gladly suffered zero to no bullying in high school because of it, as there were no ways of connecting her to me, and most of my friends that knew my mother didn't know it was her. She had dyed her hair, done a few surgeries and stuff. Well, I moved on with my life, joined the army, and I'm pretty well now. However, a year ago, out of nowhere, she found me on social media and began to message me, asking how I was, commenting on how much I had grown up and trying to do some small talk. I just replied with one word and even stopped replying once my nerve got the best of me. Apparently, she has retired and after feeling an overwhelming remorse throughout her entire life, decided to contact us again. My brother was also careful but essentially accepted her back. He was always close to her. My father is cordial with her, but only that. She's also asked her entire part of the family for help as I began being bombarded with messages and calls. From both those that criticized and supported me and my dad. I made it clear that I do not want anything with her, but they just keep on, saying that she is remorseful, that she did a mistake but wants to make it right, that she has come back for us, etc. More recently, she somehow found out where I live, and I've been receiving random gifts at my doorstep with messages that were clearly hers. Things like a basket of chocolate that I liked when I was little, expensive clothes. She got my size wrong on all of them. Flowers when my cat passed away, and even a very expensive hiking kit. I messaged her a few times to say that I don't want any of that, but she just pretends she doesn't know what I'm talking about or just says she thought of me at that moment. I made it clear time and time again that I don't want anything to do with her, but she still persists, saying that she can be my mum again now, and stuff like that. I don't know what else to say, so advice is more than welcome. That is just incredibly sad. I'm putting you in that position at 8 years old where you're having to parent yourself and your brother. And now just kind of wants to waltz back into your life because she's feeling remorseful. That's taking the piss. And she also does herself no favors in this situation, ignoring your clear boundaries, sending people, the extended family who's already fucked you over once, to pressure you is manipulative as hell. And then you've got the love bombing stuff that's going on, gifts, pretending she doesn't know what you're talking about when you ask her to stop. It's just all manipulation. She made all these choices for over a long period of time, made choices that had real consequences for you, an 8-year-old child who needed his mum at the time, and your brother choosing to reconnect with her. If that works for him, that works for him, but At the moment in this for you, I can see it's not going to work for you and you want to maintain your distance from her. So, that's absolutely valid as well. But Pixie on Acid says, you're under no obligation to allow her back into your life. Block her again, and her family, and dump all of the gifts she gives you. Stop entertaining her attention. If she will not stop, I'd honestly recommend going the legal route. Get a cease and desist letter sent out to her and her family. And if that doesn't stop it, go to the police to get a harassment on file so it'll be easier to file a police report / restraining order in the future. Opie says I've donated or sent back all the gifts already. Unfortunately, cease and desist letters are not a thing in my country, but I'm really thinking about filing a police report for harassment. Just don't know if they will accept since she never did it personally. Let's keep this civil says it sounds like she's regretting what she's done and wants it back the way it was. But you shouldn't let this happen. It will just happen over and over again. Opie replies saying she has indeed voiced that she regrets what she has done. And I don't think it would happen again, but she should know things would not get back to the way it was. And honestly, if she thought it would, she's even crazier because things were really bad before. So it's about a couple of weeks after this when that Opie comes in with their first update and says, first, I would like to thank everyone that commented, giving me some comfort, advice, or letting me unwind on their DMs. You all helped me a lot. I'm still trying to answer all the comments and messages, but with work and family craziness reaching new heights, that might take some time. But know that your words are very appreciated, and I thank you all from the bottom of my heart. Well, to start the update, I decided to have the moral high ground and take a more polite approach. I know many of you wanted me to just send her to hell on a message or letter, but I thought this way would disarm much of her comebacks. Maybe even make some of her family members shut up. I called her and asked her to meet me in a small cafe. No way I was meeting her in private. She got there and it looked like she had won the lottery. She had a smile from ear to ear and was almost jumping up and down, but the smile did fade away when she saw my face. She sat down and tried to do some small talk, but I cut her off and began to rain on her parade. With all of the calm and patience I could gather, I told her that no matter what she does or says, there would be no way for her to be my mum again. I started to explain that she was a complete stranger to me now, but I still had resentment. Reminded her that I tried many times to stay in contact with her, but she refused. And even stated that I'm no longer a child. I'm almost 30, so I kind of don't need a mum anymore. I told myself not to say something like, a few years too late, huh? I didn't even finish speaking when she burst into tears and began rambling about how sorry she was. That she was sorry for not seeing me grow up, sorry for ignoring me. That she would do anything for a second chance. She even told me that if her old work bothers me, she could have taken it all down and paid for therapy if I wanted. Apparently she didn't know I'm in therapy ever since I was a teenager. I politely refused, and since the conversation wasn't likely to progress, I just left after asking her once more to not contact me again. A couple of hours later, I was in the shower when my phone began exploding with calls and messages. She apparently once again told her family, and once again they were cursing or trying to convince me. That showed me that some of the more radical comments on my last post were somewhat right, and I decided to follow some of their advice. I swapped my phone numbers. Also got a much better phone plan, cleaned my social media of any family members from her side, and told my lawyer to go forward with a restraining order. Thanks to the last post, I had it ready to go. Thanks again, everyone. She received the order a couple of days ago and immediately broke it by driving straight to my house to scream while I was doing that. I didn't come out and called the cops. Thankfully, they saw the restraining order and took her to the station for questioning. I was afraid they would ignore it or something, but I'm glad I was wrong. I'm now stuck here. Not sure with what I did was 100% right, but at least I'm having some semblance of peace this last few days. She's still trying to send gifts, but I'm going legal on that too. I'm honestly not sure if there will be any more updates after this, but if it happens, I'll post on my profile due to this subreddit rules, but once again, thanks everyone. So it was 3 weeks after that last update that OP came in again and said, so I wasn't planning on posting any more updates, but a lot of people have been messaging me, and apparently my post made it into YouTube and it blew up. Because of it, even more people are PMing me, so I guess I'll just write a quick one. My mother is now legally fighting me on the restraining order. I didn't even know that was a thing, and I'm trying to get more restraining orders for the more crazy members of her family. My lawyer told me to be cautious because if I request 20 plus orders for all of her family, I look like a madman and it will all be denied. So, hasn't broken the restraining order again after the last time, but the gifts continue to come and even intensified, so I'm just donating all of them. Although my childhood was pretty bad, I can say the amount of chocolate she sent me is making a lot of kids really happy now. And I'll say it again, I'm not revealing her name, go find porn elsewhere and stop messaging me. It's not even for her sake, but I don't want to get doxxed. Anyone that sends any message like that will be blocked. To end this, I don't know if I'll post any more updates or how long they will be, but if something happens, I'll definitely tell you guys. Once again, thanks to everyone that helped. So, after that, it was 3.5 years later that OP came in once again and says, "Hey there folks, yeah, it's been a few years. Life has been a complete roller coaster, but with some people still sending DMs, I figure I should at least try to make some updates. Now bear in mind it has been years, so my memory might be spotty and all over the place. Will try my best to make it chronological, but it might turn into a mess. Right where I left off. Well, my mum had been pushy to the limit, but at least with a restraining order she was keeping away. There were some incidents like when she showed up at my dad's house during a family dinner, only for my dad's new girlfriend at the time, now wife, to open the door. She also showed up at my job, asking for me, Army, and one of my friends who was on guard duty scared her off with a shotgun. Love those guys, and they are pretty much the only thing I miss about the Army. Well, life was not going that well, but kept being passed for promotions. My requests for officer school were always denied, and to top it all off, my girlfriend at the time cheated and dumped me. So yeah, not nice. Years went by when I finally thought I would get an upstart to my promotion. I got dismissed by the Army along with a lot of other folks. Suddenly with no job, I had to go back to living with my dad for some time, while I tried to figure out what to do with my life. The restraining order against my mum also expired, so she came back with renewed vigor, which did not help the situation at all. There's a lot more, so I should tackle it some other time. Now, have a nice weekend, folks." What is going through her mind? It's absolutely unhinged behavior. She disappears from OP's life for years, while OP's literally raising himself and his brother, and she thinks she can just walk in and just everything goes back to normal. And even after OP's got a restraining order against her, he's gone to those lengths to get her out of his life. As soon as it ended, she's trying to get back in again, like she's gonna succeed with this somehow. I'm not sure how restraining orders work, but surely you can just get it renewed if someone immediately starts jumping back into your life when it ends. You'd hope. I'm always skeptical of these things because I've seen some absolute horror stories, but you'd think if someone saw that, whoever was dealing with the freaking restraining orders would say, yeah, that person needs to fuck off out of that person's life because they're not leaving him alone here. Absolutely wild behavior, but I really do hope that things do start to improve for the OP as well. It sounds like they've gone for an absolute time in the last few years. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. Now, before we get into this next story, there is a trigger warning on it of homophobia, so if you do want to skip it, please feel free to do so. Timestamps are always down in the description and along the timeline below. Thank you. It's titled, "Would I Be the Arsehole for Uninviting My Brother Because He Is Trying to Ruin My Father's Funeral?" I will try and keep it short, but first of all, some context. I have 3 younger siblings, 2 brothers, Andrew and Ben, and 1 sister, Claire. When we were younger, my father discovered Ben was homosexual. He was enraged and probably would have disowned Ben on the spot if it was not for the intervention of our mother. Dad and Ben never reconciled, and Dad did everything in his power to make Ben as uncomfortable as possible. The siblings stayed close, but eventually Ben could not take the constant abuse anymore and moved out. Claire followed, but for career reasons. Andrew and I stayed in our hometown. Dad died of COVID complications a few days ago. As the eldest son of the family, it became my responsibility to prepare the funeral. He was a prominent member of the local community, so attendance will be high. Now we come to the main issue. Ben wanted to give a eulogy and sent me a draft of his speech. Unsurprisingly, the contents were not flattering, and I rejected him on the spot. He got really angry, and he told me that this was the best chance to expose his dad's hypocrisy, especially since he had the image of a good family man. He wanted everyone to know how much abuse he suffered at the hands of our father. Now, I love Ben unconditionally. He's my younger brother, and there are not a lot of things I would not do for him. However, this is one of them. It is simply not appropriate to speak ill of the dead at their own funeral, which is supposed to be a celebration of their life. For all his ugly, hideous flaws, Dad was a complicated person. And focusing the entire funeral on his relationship with one person is too much. There is also the fact that letting him do such a eulogy will probably cause a massive fallout in the community. Ben will not have to deal with the consequences because he lives in another state, but Andrew and I will be left picking up the pieces. Claire is on Ben's side for this one, while Andrew is on mine. I want to stress that I'm not trying to cover for my father or what he did to Ben, but there is a time and place for such things, and a funeral is not it. Ben eventually backed down, but his husband has tipped me off that Ben is still preparing to cause trouble. I really do not want to do this, but it seems to me that uninviting my brother from the funeral is the only choice. Would I be the arsehole if I did so? For those asking why I would even want to honor such a horrible man in the first place, it's complicated. Dad was a great father until the incident, which happened when I was in college. It's not easy being torn by two people you love, and even though I can say I did not hesitate to choose Ben, Dad was still the person I grew up admiring and loving. I'm still sorting my own feelings out and trying to reconcile the loving father that raised me and my siblings with a man who threw away everything for his petty prejudices. For those asking about the fallout, it has to do with the town's local politics. That's all I'm willing to say. Going to do a last few clarifications here because people are making a lot of assumptions. No, we did not cover up the abuse. All four of us siblings have been clear to our friends and family why we moved out of the family house, and my mother has also made it clear why she and my late father were estranged, even if we did not go out of our way to air family's dirty laundry. Ben has also made it clear he does not resent any of us besides our father, and us falling out would just be what our dad would have wanted. I might have understated a bit when I referred to the eulogy draft as unflattering. It was vulgar, vile, and definitely not appropriate for a funeral. Even if I had agreed with Ben's plan, there was no chance I would have approved the draft. The eulogy would have reflected badly on him and not my father. I'm not going to ask Ben to keep the abuse a secret. He's free to tell anyone he likes, on Facebook, the local obituary, etc. I just think that the funeral is not the appropriate time, and especially not for a eulogy. Crystal Queen says, "Firstly, I'm sorry for your loss. I'm going against the grain here. You're the arsehole. Denying Ben closure to keep up appearances in the community is cruel. You and others experienced your father in a very different way than he did. Do I think he should read a eulogy? No, but he shouldn't be uninvited. He may cause a scene, he might not. I guarantee he's going to show up with or without your permission. He'll be responsible for how he behaves." Punslinger says not the arsehole for not wanting drama at a funeral. However, if your dad managed to maintain this image despite his actions, and you agree that your dad was in the wrong for what he did to Ben, then I feel you have a responsibility to address his flaws and false image. Not to mention, other people presumably know about Ben and their rocky relationship, or will have questions about why Ben is attending if he is uninvited, so questions will be asked regardless. Whether this is addressed inside or outside the funeral is ultimately up to the organizers, you. But as a member of the LGBT community myself, my sympathy goes to Ben here. As far as I'm concerned, your dad failed to be a father. Mad Cowboy says you're the arsehole. Sounds like your family never stood up to your father and allowed him to abuse your brother without even minimum opposition. If you're making the arrangement, you can say no to him giving a eulogy, but to bar him to protect the legacy of his abuser just shows that you as a brother still don't care about how he was abused. And one more comment from Cultural Ambition, who says not the arsehole. If it were my brother, I'd ask him what he's hoping to get out of this. Your father will still be dead and past apologizing or doing anything else. Nothing changes for Ben, but it will change for those still living nearby, especially since Ben is unlikely to sway anyone's opinion about your father. If anything, those who were as homophobic as your dad will just use Ben's words and actions to paint LGBTQ in a bad light. You and the family still living there will end up paying the freight. Ben still has all the negative memories and experience he has right now. If there's a way to acknowledge that your father was a flawed, complicated person while still celebrating his life, would Ben accept that? So, sometime later, OP came back into the update and says, "Hello, it's been one of the longest weeks of my life. but the funeral has finally concluded. Thank you to everyone who commented on my original post. Some people sent me messages for an update, so here you go. First of all, it would have been a mistake to rescind the invite to my brother. And thank you to the people who pointed out that I had no way of keeping him out of the church without asking security to throw him out. That would probably have been almost as bad, if not worse, than the eulogy. I had to deal with a lot of people during the funeral preparations, many of them unpleasant but influential, and really not in the right state of mind to make decisions. It was also wrong of me to try and deny Ben closure, though I do have to say in the comments accusing me of being complicit in or not having done enough to stop my brother's abuse were out of line. A singular post where I'm actively trying to limit personal information is not a fair basis from which to extrapolate our family relationships, and it seems to me that many of the commenters have their own emotional baggage that they're trying to project onto my relationships. I met up with my brother and his husband a few days after he gave me the eulogy. Thank you to those who suggested I ask about his motivations and provide alternate perspectives. We had a surprisingly brief talk. In short, Ben did not want us, his immediate family, to lionize our father. We agreed that Ben would come, but we would leave the eulogy to Dad's friends and we would hold a private wake for his immediate family only. The funeral was mostly uneventful. A few questions were asked by the priest and my father's friends why none of his children or his wife were given eulogies, but I just explained that we were leaving it for the wake. At the wake, we all got to say what we wanted to say. I will leave it at that. Thanks to whoever suggested the after-funeral party. We went to our childhood home and had a great time. Due to COVID, we hadn't really had the chance to meet up much, and this was the first time we've had in a long time to catch up. After the funeral, we published an obituary with sections from each part of the family. It was tactically worded, and choosing the right words was a pain, but Ben had fun with his section. All in all, I think the matter was settled quite nicely. Thank you again for everyone who gave advice and everyone who provided their kind words. Commenter says, congratulations on your willingness and ability to compromise and your deft diplomatic skills. Let me add, not the arsehole, of course. Opie says thank you, but most of the praise should go to my brother's husband. I cannot thank that man enough for everything he's done. I figure by the time we met, my brother was already to drop the issue, and I'm glad we found a solution where everyone could be satisfied. Commenter says it's great that you're able to pull together as a family to deal with the situation. Opie says, it is great, isn't it? I'm really lucky to be surrounded by wonderful people. Take the issue of my father's inheritance for example. I've heard horror stories of family torn apart by fighting over scraps, and even though I love my siblings, money can change people. I was really not looking forward to executing the will. What's more, my father left the majority of his assets in generation-skipping trusts, so I thought that Ben would be upset for sure. We settled it on the day of the funeral. God, I'm so lucky. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What would you have done in that situation? There was a lot of back and forth in the comments, even after the update, talking about what they might have done in that situation. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, your support, your time, it always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being there, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.